The Sith Eternal cult was Sidious' secret weapon that would allow him to have one final chance at vengeance against the galaxy and finally destroy his ancient foes, the Jedi, once and for all. But what's the story behind this cult and where exactly did it come from? So, the Sith Eternal is a cult devoted to the Force, particularly the dark side. It's said to have operated throughout the galaxy's history, and we can assume to an extent Sidious, perhaps his master, and even their predecessors did have some contact with this cult whilst they were planning on taking power. Now, members of this cult were likely mostly not Force sensitives. They were just made up of people who recognised its power and wanted to better understand the Sith. They agreed with the Sith's philosophy, and probably had a lot of sympathy towards the Sith's imperial ideology. After all, the Sith and the dark side is probably a lot more appealing at first glance to people's more primal nature, as opposed to something such as the light side, which teaches a lot more restraint. Now, it's not really known what the Sith cult was doing during the time of the Empire. We can assume that they were just an incredibly loyal force of Sidious's followers. And despite the Empire being in power, they remained a very shadowy organisation. And it's just as well, because upon his alleged death on the Death Star Mark II, the Sith Eternal was very quick to jump into action. Interestingly enough, they appeared to very quickly abandon the Empire and let it just rip itself apart, carrying out Sidious's contingency orders. After all, they were loyal to the Sith, not the Imperial warlords. It was more religious over political ideology. Now, eventually, somehow, Sidious is resurrected, and the Sith Eternal are very quick to come to his side and serve Sidious. It's important to remember that Sidious did have a lot of hidden facilities around the galaxy, and this is all likely part of his contingency plan. However, he was very weak following his resurrection, and he and his cult went to the hidden Sith world of Exegol, which is almost impossible to find in the unknown regions, and you need a Sith wayfinder to get there. From here, the Sith cult began to create a great temple for their leader, and began work on his final order, a new fleet of Star Destroyers and a new army. As well as this, they created Snoke, which would act as a puppet for the pro-Imperial forces left in the known galaxy. Eventually, they would all be consolidated into the final order. The ultimate plan was to return to the known galaxy, retake order, and have Sidious's descendant Rey, now Rey Skywalker, turn to the dark side to ensure the succession of the Sith. Needless to say, the Sith Eternal was a very elusive organisation. However, it's evident that they were pulling strings from the moment Sidious fell, and likely even before he took power. They were spread very, very vastly across the galaxy, and often in positions of power. Some cultists were members of weapon manufacturing companies, even been part of the executive boards, ensuring resources could be funneled off to the Final Order to make their armaments and fleet. It's also incredibly likely that the New Republic and First Order also had cult loyalists in their ranks. Now, in the 3 decades between his first death on the Death Star and his final demise on Exegol, this cult had grown incredibly powerful, not only toiling to create hundreds of planet-killing Star Destroyers, but it also appears that they have a huge amount of effort in recruiting. There was at least several legions of Sith troops, each 5,000 strong, and that's only the army. Before we're even considering things such as engineers, commanders, and other roles in the cult. I do have to say though, it does seem very strange that they could amass such a force without being discovered. This is likely due to the secrecy of the operation on Exegol. Every child born into the Eternal cult was born with this religious dogma, and even if they did decide to betray the cult, or its leader, they couldn't run away. There wasn't enough wayfinders, and anyone attempting to flee would be destroyed. Ultimately, this cult is incredibly powerful, and pulled a lot of strings, even with the ultimate defeat at the hands of the Resistance and Rey Skywalker. Their agents are still out there. Zealots loyal to one cause, empowering the Sith, and they'd remained undetected for a very long time, so rooting them out is going to be very difficult. Ultimately, I don't believe that the Sith Eternal is gone. I think it will continue to be a problem for the Republic for decades to come, as they desperately try to reform some kind of order in the name of the Sith and their long-dead Emperor. After all, as long as the Jedi survive, there will always be those to oppose them. But what do you guys think of the Sith Eternal cult, and how much of a threat do you think they pose following the Battle of Exegol? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, I do hope that you enjoyed. Please do remember to like, share and sub for more content if you did, as it's really appreciated and it does help the channel grow. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at TheLawGuy and tick the bell for regular updates. Thanks again for watching. Again, I really do hope that you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.